Hey everyone, welcome in. Thanks for hopping on early. I always appreciate how many people are very prompt for these things. We've got some good content to cover. And while we're waiting to start, go ahead and type in where you're joining from today, what sort of content you create, what you do in the chat on the bottom there. I'd love to see where everyone's streaming from today. Welcome, folks. Got some fellow Chicagoans in the chat today. It's extremely foggy where I am in Chicago right now. I literally cannot see outside of my window, but you know, what's new? It's great to see a international crowd here. I appreciate everyone tuning in from many different time zones. That's awesome. Yeah. And this webinar is going to be recorded. So if you miss some of it live, or you want to share it with the rest of your team, you'll get an email with the recording and slides. All right, we'll give it another second. It's great to see a bunch of different content creators on here as well, a whole different range of content that you folks create. So that's always awesome to see. All right, and we will kick it off. I know people are still trickling in, but as I mentioned, this is going to be recorded. So you will get an email with the recording of this after the session. But welcome everyone to 2024 Top Content Marketing Trends to Transform Your Business. As the title suggests, we are going to dive into the top 8 content marketing trends we have identified here at Issuu that will help your marketing, business, content creation strategy going forward into 2024. My name is Talius. I am a demand marketing manager here at Issuu. I'm a Chicago native, a coffee lover, and I race bicycles. Just a little bit about me. We also have Alessandro, a member of our customer success team, on the call today, who's going to be helping answer all of your questions. So thanks, Alessandro. Just some housekeeping before we dive in. We have the chat and the Q&A that are both open for you to use. The chat is where you have just been introducing yourselves. Feel free to comment, talk about what you're thinking about as we're running through this webinar in the chat. But if you have specific questions, please put that in the Q&A because there's so many messages in the chat. we'll probably miss your questions, or we might miss your questions if you put them in the chat. So please put them in the Q&A, and we'll be answering those as we run through the webinar, but then we'll also have a dedicated 10-ish minutes at the end to answer some of those questions live. So again, as I've mentioned, this webinar is meant to be a resource for you. So you'll get the slides and the recording after we finish with the live webinar. You should get that if you're registered or if you attended live via email. So the bulk of this is going to be talking about those top 8 content marketing trends, but then more importantly, actionable insights and tips we have for how you can really take advantage of those trends for your marketing strategy for the next year. Before we dive into that, though, just a brief, kind of a retrospective of Issue's 2023. We want to extend a thank you to all of the Issuu creators out there who have helped us, really see increases in all these features that we offer, the usage of all these features that we offer. So if you haven't taken a look at some of these features, like our article generation feature, our integration that we have with Canva, or our new social post feature, go pop into the Issuu platform and check those out, because as you can see here, there are a lot more people really exploring and seeing that there's so much you can do with the Issuu platform outside of just that initial flipbook creation. But now let's get into these trends. Before we dive into the trends, I'm actually going to launch a poll. So I will do that now. The poll should be live. So feel free to take a few seconds to go through here. And essentially, we have a question that corresponds with each of the trends we've identified. So you kind of can check in with where you're at with these trends as we're going through. So we'll take a second for you folks to fill that out. Some good answers in here already. And I will keep this open so you can answer this, and we'll continue to answer this as we move through each of the trends. And in the chat, if you want to talk about, what trends you've personally noticed, even if they're not covered in this list we have here, or predictions you have for the next year, feel free to pop that in the chat. Amazing. Yeah, thanks for popping in your answers here. And we'll kind of touch on the answers to these polls as we move through each trend. Perfect. Alrighty. So as I mentioned, we have 8 trends for you today. The first trend we're going to talk about is personalization and hyper segmentation. So what do these terms mean? This is essentially breaking down a market, your target audience, into smaller, highly specific groups based on various traits and preferences. And at its most advanced, essentially creating segments of one. So the marketing you're doing is so segmented and so personalized, it really applies or is perfect to one individual in that target audience. Brands that effectively hyper-segment drive 40% more revenue. So doing this can really see financial, returns. And essentially, this is that the buying experience is tailored to each individual consumer. However, we understand that, not all businesses are going to be able to have access to this level of data and have the resources to do this much analysis and segmentation. So for businesses of any size and entrepreneurs of any size and content creators, doing some level of segmentation, if you're not already, is a really good way to tailor the buying experience to smaller groups in your audience, which is going to drive more revenue. So how do you do this? What data can you use to do this? This can be demographic data when it comes to age, gender, income level, etc. Geographic location, psychographic data, lifestyle choices, and purchase history. So a lot of this data we have access to already, whether that's via our websites, whether that's via social channels, whether that's via purchase history for your users. And then what can you do what are the assets you can actually create after you've done the segmentation? This can be targeted ads for a specific segment, landing pages, pricing, chatbots that actually tailor communication to each individual, and the timing of the communication. So when your marketing materials are going out, when you're sending the emails, all has an effect and can really make the individual feel like the buying experience is tailored to them, which will lead to a much more profitable interaction for both you and your target audience. So as we have here, 71% of consumers expect brands to deliver personalized interactions, and 76% of them are likely to repurchase and refer others to brands that personalize, generating strong lifetime value and loyalty. So as we move into 2024, doing things to increase loyalty and to make your current audience and target audience feel like they're really connecting with someone who understands what their needs are and what they're looking for out of your product will really see returns. So this is our first trend we've identified. The second trend is one that I imagine many of you have, come to understand, or it's been a very popular topic, even in the past year, but it's going to continue to grow, and that is the continuous growth of AI-generated content. So specifically, generative AI technologies like ChatGPT have taken the world by storm because they are so effective at parsing natural language and making decisions that are oftentimes remarkably human. So one study here says that AI could increase global corporate profits by 4.4 trillion annually. So this is a massive growth for businesses of all sizes. And as we know, AI is kind of it's a hot button topic. There's a lot of controversy, a lot of debate about it, but generally the benefits are cost effectiveness and time efficiency, scalability and personalization, and creative experimentation. So when this is specifically related to content marketing and business, it allows you to save time and save energy for businesses of all sizes. So whether you are an individual entrepreneur or you're a large organization, incorporating some element of AI allows you to be more efficient. However, there are very much challenges when it comes to using AI. Those are primarily authenticity and credibility, and human creativity and expertise. So you never want to be at a point where you're having AI write all your copy for your website, but using AI to potentially to create a framework or an outline for a blog or a longer piece of content can be a really effective tool. So what we also have here, we have a couple of links on this page. So again, we'll send out these slides, and I've linked out to an article that lists free AI tools that are helpful for businesses. So if you want to move into 2024, beginning to experiment with these sort of tools, this is a great way to do so, because it can help you be more efficient and be more effective. Here at Issuu, we also have AI incorporated into our own product. Our Issuu articles feature automatically, so when you upload a flipbook to Issuu, our Issuu articles feature automatically identifies the smaller articles within that larger piece. So let's say you produce an editorial and it has 4 different primary articles in it, then our Issuu article feature would automatically detect those articles and pull them into a social ready, shareable individual piece. So you can go ahead and share these individual articles via a specific link to social media instead of always sharing that full flipbook. We also have the Canva and Adobe Express images here. We integrate with both of these platforms, and both of these platforms have begun to incorporate many AI features into their platform itself. And it's not just Canva and Adobe Express. Many of the software tools you use are continually adding AI capabilities into the platform. So even if you don't want to go look at one of these AI suggested tools, many of the tools you already use most likely are beginning to incorporate AI features into their own platform. So trend number 3 is, I'm actually it's interesting. I'm taking a look at the poll right now, and it's about a 50-50 split for trend number 1, people who are doing segmentation, and trend number 2, people who are using generative AI. So there's a lot of people who are already beginning to incorporate these first 2 trends into their active use cases, into their strategies and their content marketing. But there's also a big segment of you that have the opportunity to really first dive into these in 2024. Capitalization of user-generated content. This is our 3rd trend. So what is user-generated content? It is any content that's created by people rather than by brands. So this can be a customer review or a testimonial, photos, videos, blogs, comments, etc. So a few of the examples we have on the bottom here, from on the left is Apple's Shot on iPhone campaign, which is effective not only because Apple's able to harness the fantastic photography that's taken on their phones, but is able to show to potential customers, hey, look, here's the possibility of what you, not a professional photographer, you yourself, an individual, can create using our products. So it's effective twofold. One, because it's essentially incredible content that the brand itself has not created that they can harness from their user base. And also, it's effective to potential customers because it's able to connect on a human level. Another example of this is Airbnb. Airbnb is really effective at encouraging the owners of the Airbnbs themselves to take really effective product photography and use that to market their own properties on Airbnb. So it's not like Airbnb goes around to each property and takes professional photography. The platform encourages the people who own the properties to take really impressive photos of their own properties. So again, it's another slightly different than Apple here. It's another way to incorporate user-generated content into your entire business kind of philosophy. And then on the right two images here, this is actually issue content that we've produced and that we've put on our social channels and our email newsletters that incorporates user-generated content. We're really lucky at Issuu to have so many examples of incredible content that are created not by us, but are created by the Issuu user base, publishing fantastic flip books and articles and social posts on a daily basis. So as we've already touched on, some of the advantages of user-generated content are that it's a free source of inspiration. So sometimes what your users are doing with your product or with your service are beyond even what you have imagined you could do. So you might get inspired from your own users to, move your product or service in a different direction or expand your target audience. Additionally, it's essentially a free source of content. So you want to make sure you're crediting these individuals, your users who you're getting this content from, but it's not, you don't have to go out and create this content yourself. It's stuff that your users have naturally already created. And finally, it's more engaging and effective at converting because for your potential audience, they're able to connect with this user-generated content because it's created by people like themselves. It's not created by a corporation or a brand or a business or an organization. So that brings us to the end of our third trend, capitalization of user-generated content. And I'm seeing, based on our poll results, that a slight majority of you are actually already doing this. So that's great. You should continue doing so and maybe even expand what you think of when you think of user-generated content. So it's not just, reposting something on social media that a user has created, but you can, take your Google reviews or Yelp reviews and incorporate that into promotional content as well. So it's expanding the way you think about user-generated content. Moving now into our fourth trend, which is video content dominance. So this is a trend that has been growing for many years. This isn't something that's new. We are all aware that video is becoming a greater part of marketing strategy in general. And this is echoed again by the poll results. We see 75% of people on the webinar today are already creating video content. But that's not to say that there is no room for growth in what video content you're creating. So essentially, creating and sharing video content has become increasingly important for companies of all sizes. It's not just, TikTok influencers or massive brands who can create high production video content. It's really anyone in between. And what does this content look like? This can be live videos. This can be shoppable videos. That's a feature that's been rolled out. You can see on YouTube now. You can shop for content in a video. Paid videos and ads, so promoted content. And as we just mentioned, user-generated content. And this is on top of, this is not a comprehensive list. This can be 30-second TikTok videos. This can be long-form video content. There's so many different opportunities when it comes to creating and sharing video content. But what are the benefits of video content? Primarily, they are a higher engagement rate. So as opposed to sharing just text or just a photo or just a link, video content we've seen across channels results in higher rates of engagement, which is ultimately, as a business, as a content marketer, what you want. Not only is there a higher engagement rate, there's also a higher conversions rate. So not only are people more likely to like, share, engage with the video content, but that's more likely to drive a purchase decision. And this is one, this third benefit is one you might not think of naturally, but video is actually seeing increasing SEO benefits. So that's, we don't think of, keywords and headings and stuff like that when we think of SEO, but video actually has significant SEO benefits as well. So it's another incentive to begin creating video content. And finally, we're seeing increased time on page. So if you have video content embedded within, let's say, a page of your issue flipbook or on your website, we're seeing increased time on page. And that brings us to, as I just mentioned, the issue video embeds feature. So you can actually embed a video within your issue flipbook. And I will open this link and show you this example we have right here. I opened the wrong link. Here we go. I'm sorry, folks. Okay, here we go. Sometimes Zoom is tricky. There we go. I believe you can see this. So this is an example that I like to show. This is an issue flipbook. And as you can see, this video is actually embedded within the page itself. So this is a Vimeo link that they've embedded into an issue flipbook. You can embed from YouTube links or Vimeo links. So as you can see, it's this traditional flipping experience, but it becomes so much more engaging because you have this video embedded really beautifully, I might add, within the content itself. So another great example of not just video content, but user-generated content. That's what I'm showing right now. We did not create this at Issuu. This is an Issuu user who's created this flipbook. And let me reshare my slides here. There we go, back to the slides. And so the final thing to mention is, in addition to this sort of long-form content, you can creating short-form content for TikTok and Instagram and social channels is something that we encourage everyone to explore. So this is not just for, as I mentioned, influencers or larger brands. You can begin to really connect with your audience in a natural way using these platforms. So there's really great examples of this from brands that are much smaller or from creators who don't have a massively established audience. You can really get creative with this going into the new year. So whether that's creating the short form content and then embedding that into a flip book, or creating a longer piece for your brand and putting that on your website, there are many opportunities here, and we encourage you to begin to explore that going into the new year. The fifth trend is the increased use of templates for streamlined design. And this essentially relates to the democratization of design. So with tools, as we have here on the bottom, like Canva and Adobe Express becoming more and more popular, design is becoming increasingly not just limited to the hands of people who are professionals in this field, who are trained in the field of design, but individuals, individual entrepreneurs, individual creators are able to create a really cohesive brand and design identity for their brand, for their organization, regardless of the size of that organization. How do templates fit into this? Templates are a great way to jumpstart that design process. So instead of having to create, even this image on the right here, we have examples from a brochure to a presentation to a book to a portfolio. Instead of having to start that process from scratch, you can begin somewhere and then expand and tailor that to your brand. You can also, in many design programs, save various templates and various designs and various colors to make sure that everyone within your organization has cohesive design. So if you have someone in one department creating a design and someone in another department creating a design, having them start from a specific template, whether that's a template that you've taken from a design platform or templates that you have created within your own company, it's a great way to make sure your branding is cohesive across multiple channels, which is only going to make your marketing efforts more effective. So as I've mentioned, the benefits of using templates are that it saves time and resources. There's brand consistency and inspiration. So even if you don't even end up using a template, sometimes I just like to scroll through the template options that design programs such as Canva and Adobe products offer, just to get inspired. Say, let's see what other people are doing, and then create your own concept from that. So there are also you don't only have to use templates. You can also create templates. So this is a bit more niche, but if you are a creative or if you work for a creative brand, you can create templates for your users or for your audience to use. An example of this that I like to share is She Talks Business. And I won't show this, but feel free to link out to this today. And she is an expert Canva user and creates custom templates that she then monetizes and sells because they're really beautiful and people want to incorporate that aesthetic into their own brands. So if you are a designer or creative, this is not just something that you can use, that you can consume, but that you can also create and monetize for your own content marketing. We also have our own templates here at Issuu. So we just launched a newer one for a resume or a CV. But this is content that you can download from Issuu, customize in whatever design software you use, and then easily re-upload and turn into an Issuu flipbook. So you'll see this content right when you log into Issuu. You have access to all of these different templates, these Issuu created templates that you can download and use. So moving in to trend number 6, and this is conversational marketing. And so let's explain a bit more what this looks like. And so this is interesting. For this trend, we actually have the least amount of people at 13% that currently use conversational marketing tactics. So this is potentially an opportunity for the majority of the people here on the webinar to start moving into this field that haven't explored it before. So this was actually originally coined by Drift Marketing, which is a marketing company. And conversational marketing, I'll read this quote, is a dialogue-driven approach to marketing that uses real-time conversations to engage site visitors and move them through the buying journey, move them quickly through the buying journey. It creates an authentic experience that builds relationships with customers and buyers. So what does that really mean? It's primarily the use of chatbots, as we mentioned briefly before in the presentation, chatbots to customize the experience for each site visitor, for each potential customer. And why is this effective? It's faster and more effective communication with potential customers. It puts the focus on the customer and what their specific needs are, as opposed to pushing to purchase as soon as possible. As we talked about in trend number 1, hyper-segmentation, not all your target customers are going to be the same. Not everyone is going to move to purchase in the same speed. Not everyone is looking for the same thing. So incorporating a chatbot into your website is going to be a much more effective way to understand what this user is looking for and how to get them, what the flow is going to be to get them from initial, interaction with your brand to conversion to purchase. So this can, start as a chatbot and move into human interaction. And as the screenshots we have here are just actually from the chatbots that we have on our Issuu website, which start automated and then move over to our lovely customer success team if you need to, and also can direct you to our sales team if that's what you're looking for as well. So the stat here we have on the bottom left, you can see 64% year-over-year percentage growth of consumers' demand for immediacy. So again, if you land on a website and you immediately say, and there's immediately a chatbot that's encouraging you to, help you with the answers to your questions that you have, understand what you're looking for, this is going to be a really effective way to move these people through the funnel. And so again, we understand that this is not necessarily something that all content marketers, all content creators are going to be able to implement. Not everyone has a website in which this makes sense. Not everyone has a website. So this is not necessarily a trend for everyone, but it is something to experiment with. And again, another form of AI that can really help tailor that purchase experience for your audience. We're moving to the ending sections of our trends here. This is trend 7 of 8, and is seamless integrations for workflow optimization. And let's see if I can. Okay, and I can't check on, while the poll's open, I can't check on all of your short answer questions to this because I'm sure there are many different integrations, but let's dive into what this looks like. So why is this necessary? Why are integrations necessary? As our tech stacks, so as the variety of different software tools that we use expands, it seems like every day there's a new tool that we're using to increase efficiency in some area of business. Our resources get stretched even further, and we get pulled in many different directions. So essentially, the primary advantages here are efficiency, flexibility, and scalability, allowing you to do more with less, saving ultimately time and money. So there's a whole host of integrations that you can use now, whether that's tools related to customer service, data management, content creation and design, etc. Even on the bottom here, you have this diagram that's showing all of the different platforms we integrate with at Issuu, where you can import your content from into the Issuu platform, which saves time and money, as we mentioned. So it's a really easy way in many circumstances to increase efficiency. Many of these trends are going into 2024. How do you work more effectively while you have less resources and there are more tools and there are more things you need to be doing? You're wearing more hats. This is a great way to do that. I saw one question here, Teresa. You'll get a list of you'll get these slides, so you'll be able to check in on trend number 8. Again, moving back into this trend, the final point I want to make here is that you can both build and use integrations. So similar to templates, you can consume them. So you can use integrations to improve your own experience, or you can build integrations. You can say, hey, look, I have a software, or I have a software that would naturally work to connect with another related software. And then you can build an integration so that users of both of these platforms can work more effectively. And that brings us to our final trend today, which is strengthen reliability and credibility in news sources. And what's interesting here is that 80% of the people who filled out the poll make business decisions based on the data that they have access to, which is why this trend is so important. So again, a lot of text on this slide, but we'll break it down for you. So we predict that 2024 will see a heightened emphasis on verifying the credibility of new information sources. So essentially, this is based on a growing need to establish trust because there's so much data and there's so much information. We have more and more data than ever. It seems every platform we use, whether that's a social channel, whether that's our own website, demographic data about our customers, it comes with an increasing need to validate and assure we're using valid metrics and data. So all this data, all this information is essentially meaningless if we don't understand how to interpret it, and can be, even more harmful than meaningless. It can lead us in incorrect business directions, or it can mislead our customers if we don't have effective ways at verifying and validating this data. So what we have here are data reliability best practices. Again, I linked out to the source article so you can read through that in depth, but it has to do with improving your data foundations, looking at where new data is coming from, optimizing forms and data collection channels. This all has to do with making sure that the data that you're actually taking in is effective and is accurate. It also has to do with breaking down data silos. So making sure that all teams have access to all data. So if you are really pigeonholed in the data that you are looking at and you don't have a full frame of reference for the data that you need to be pulling, that can really skew things. This has to also do with segmenting your data, cleaning up your database, connecting apps to integrate data. So again, even looking at that trend number 7 integrations we just talked about, and then creating accessible reporting dashboards and scheduling regular maintenance. So there can be a lot to break down when it comes to data. But if you have not, if you are an organization that uses data on a regular basis to make business decisions, it's important that you begin to dive into this into 2024 to make sure the data that you're using is accurate and the assumptions you're drawing from that data are reliable and valid. And again, I would like to mention we have a statistics feature at Issuu. So this is something that you might not know of, but if you're publishing content on Issuu, you will have a detailed statistics dashboard related to all of that content. So you can look at things from a whole perspective for your whole account, see how many views you're getting. You can also break it down by individual piece of content. You can break it down by individual page, individual link. You can see who's reading your content from what channels and on what devices. So this is a great way you can begin to really glean insights from that content you're publishing on Issuu. So I know we covered a lot. This was a lot of information. I'd love to hear if people want to pop this into the chat, what you learned. Were there things you didn't expect on this list? What opportunities do you personally see for your 2024 marketing strategy? Again, this is just that list to recap what we discussed. So starting with that personalization and hypersegmentation, the growth of AI, incorporating user-generated content and video content, and then increasing your use of templates, whether that's using them or creating them, incorporating conversational marketing and chatbots, seamlessly using integrations or building integrations, and then finally strengthening reliability and credibility in new sources, those sources of data. So that brings us to the end of our main section here. We now have some time for a Q&A. I'm seeing a variety of questions here. Some good stuff. Alessandro, any ones that have stood out that we should chat about live?
Yes, there's one about inserting videos on InDesign, if the video will be once you upload or push to Issuu, if the video will show up on the content or not. There's a question from Maggie.
That's a good question. I know that the links will carry over if you have links in InDesign. I'm not sure about the video embed feature. To be honest, I didn't know that you could embed video within your InDesign content. I will say that the example I showed earlier, that is using the Issuu video embed tool. So what we have a lot of people do is if they're designing in InDesign, they just like block out a little space where they know they want that content to be embedded later. And then you can quickly do that. It's just like literally a drag and drop video editor within the Issuu platform after you already upload. It's a great question.
Another great question is about other integrations that Issuu has.
Yes, it's a great question. As I mentioned, we have, or as I showed briefly in that little diagram, we have integrations with a variety of, content creation platforms. So whether that's InDesign or Adobe Express or Canva, you can also upload content from Dropbox and Google Drive. You'll find that all within the Issuu platform. And we also have some other integrations with Mark and Maxa as well, if you create on those platforms. I see one question here from Susan, with a very small staff, which strategies do you feel are most accessible, have biggest bang for the buck with limited resources? So that's a great question. I would say that a lot of these trends are based around doing more with less. So I think beginning to, for example, do some segmentation, but not necessarily be so focused on segmentation that you spend all your time doing that, but saying, all right, let's say we want to, adjust our language for this age range or this geographic area. I think beginning to start doing that can be really effective. I think incorporating some of those AI tools on a very base level can begin to speed up your processes. And then doing things like video or user-generated content, if that's stuff that you already have access to, but you just aren't using, that can be a really great way to get started. And then I don't mean to just be reading through all of these, but a lot of them are really helpful. If you have limited resources, I would recommend using templates if you want to increase the speed of your kind of design flow. That's a great thing to do. Stuff like, conversational marketing and chatbots may take a little bit of time to figure out what tool is best for you. But yeah, I think there are ways you can approach all of these trends if you have limited resources. Great question. Oh, I actually see this is a really interesting comment in the chat about a possible conflict between trend 2 and trend 8. So the growth of AI generated content and reliability and credibility in news sources. So that's a really good point, and is one of the things we touched on when it comes to one of the things you have to be careful of when it comes to AI generated content is making sure that it is reliable, and you want to make sure that you are the credibility of that and of what you're using all checks out. And I think that is maybe one of the concerns people have when it comes to AI. So I think it's all about balance, about using and incorporating AI when you can and when it makes sense, but then also, like we said, having that focus on trend 8 and making sure that the data that you're working with is reliable. That's great. Yeah, I'm seeing a lot of great comments about chatbots. I think that's something that maybe has flown under the radar for a lot of people, and that can really just boost those sales and boost the streamlined flow through the funnel, through the sales funnel for people that have websites where that would apply. Great. I'm seeing another question about what the future from Melissa about the future of AI-powered chat and knowledge bases. I don't really know exactly what's in store, but we do definitely predict growth in those areas. So I think when it comes to specifically AI-powered chat and knowledge bases, we're going to be able to see the chatbots themselves continue to be much more effective. So it's not just going to be like, oh, check out this article, or you have to talk to a person now because the AI is not that advanced. But I think that as we move forward, the AI chatbots are going to be able to further personalize and tailor that experience for each individual, just making that whole flow, that whole wheel more effective. Yes, there will definitely be, I'm seeing another question here, there will definitely be a recording of the webinar sent out, and you'll get all these slides. So there's a lot of links that I've added in here for some of these original source articles and issue examples, and those links to all the issue features. You'll be able to check all of that out in the email that will be sent shortly after we end today. Great. And I'm seeing one other question here regarding the InDesign integration. Good question, Emma. I have to double check about that InDesign integration question. We will get back to you on that, but that's a great question. And I think that is about it for today. Alessandro, are there any other questions that I missed here?
Just Fang, he would like to know if you shared the results for the poll that you just started at the beginning.
Oh, great question. You know what? I believe I can do that. I have to double check what Zoom allows you to do, but I believe we can also include that in our follow-up email. It's really great to get a sense of where people are at. As I mentioned, as we're through for some of the trends, like the video content, a lot of people are doing that already, but not a lot of people are doing working with conversational marketing. So it's a cool information to see, cool data to see. And we will work to send that out after if we can. Yeah, but that wraps it all up today, folks. I really appreciate everyone was super engaged, a lot of great questions. If we missed your question, we'll send you an email follow-up after as well. But thank you again. And we hope that these trends, at least one of them, one or two of them, you hadn't explored before, even if you're really on top of all of this and you're able to think about these things in new ways and go forward into 2024 and really knock your content marketing strategy out of the park. Thanks again for joining, and make sure to keep an eye on future Issuu webinars coming soon. Thanks.